Alrighty, we're going to talk about the data link layer and the physical layer tonight. Data link layer, of course, is layer 2 in the OSI protocol, or the OSI model. What does the data link do? Well, the data link takes your IP encapsulated packet from layer 3, puts it into a frame in layer 2. The frame's header gives the physical address of the device it's going to. What is the physical address? The MAC address. That's where we start getting into the hardware aspect of your computer. All right. We're talking about the physical implementation of your NIC. NICs have MAC addresses, and that's where your interface goes out, right? There are certain types of standards for the data link layer. You have ANSI standards, you have ITU standards, which is your International Telecom Union. You have the IEEE, International Electronics Engineering, and then the ISO, which International Standards Organization, and they all have their different data link layer protocols and standards. What would happen if you didn't have a protocol or a standard to go by? Anarchy, right? Everyone for themselves. Well, if we didn't have a certain way to control things, you're going to have a lot of collisions where everyone's going to send their frames at the exact same time. All right. So what we do is we have control methods as part of your protocols and standards. And they enforce these by, y'all have heard of carrier sense multiple access, either collision avoidance or collision detection, right? CSMA, CDE, CA. That's what negotiates, and it's similar to what a FIDI ring did, where you pass a token. I'm done talking now, give a token to Lance. Lance could then talk, the old stick, pass around the stick to talk. That was the token ring idea. Well, what's going to happen is computer 1 would have a frame that says, okay, I can send it now because no one else can talk. And then when he gets done, computer 2 would send it, then computer 3, and so forth and so on. Okay? You have controlled accesses, like I said, are going to be token ring and FDDI. FDDI is just a dual ring where you can pass it around in the opposite direction on the second ring. And then you have connection-based or contention-based, where you're going to have your CMSA, CDs, and CAs. One's going to be for Ethernet, one's going to be for wireless. Collision avoidance, the CA is on your wireless network, CD is on your Ethernet network. And so those are going to be the two different types of access methods. So you're going to have contention-based and controlled-based. All right, does that make sense? Y'all with me? All right, what's the difference between full duplex and half duplex? What do y'all think? Full duplex, simple. Means I can send out all my transmit lines and receive simultaneously. That's full duplex. Half duplex means I can only do one at a time. I can transmit and or I can receive. That's full. Transmit or receive is half. All right. Well, we have what we call some common logical topologies, point-to-points. If I'm talking, you've seen it so far in your routing packet tracers, your WAN connections. Those are point-to-points. That means it has point A, point B. You have those two IP addresses, one's on one side, one's on the other, and that's it to connect those routers. That's a point-to-point WAN link. Okay. Then you have multiple access, where it's more like your star network or your bus network, where you have multiple computers coming to a central focus or central line. And then the ring where everyone's in a line and it just keeps going around and around. Okay, those are basically the types of topologies you can have. You can have several different ones, but these are just the basic fundamental topologies. What's the difference between a physical topology and a logical topology? The physical would say this computer to that computer to that computer to that computer to that computer and how they're interconnected. Logical says computer A to computer E are connected. That's the difference. It doesn't care about B through D and how it gets there. It just says that they're connected. Okay? Remember, a point-to-point is limited to two connections. Point A, point B. That's it. Everything else in between, we could care less about. The point-to-point connection is going to be your serial interfaces and how it gets there. Logical multi-access topology is going to be your star-type network, your LAN networks, right? What type of implementations can occur right here? What problems can occur right here?
Well, if A wants to go to D, and if the C is sending transmission wants access to D, you might have a collision.
You might have a collision. Exactly. So what about a logical ring topology? Would that help? Sure. Because you have A needs to transmit to D. Is this frame for me? No. Is this frame for me? No. Is this frame for me? Yes. Okay. It was passing it around to where every computer saw it. Now, is that the best method of getting data from one place to another? No. Because that's more of a broadcast type environment, unless the computer next to you is the one that you're trying to send it to. All right. Now, we talked about a little bit about the MAC addressing and the framing and how you encapsulate things. But here's the frame, okay? The header part of the frame, you have a start byte, I mean. You give the MAC address of where it's going to go, and then what type and length of is going to be for the data. Then you have the data, then you have your frame check sequence, which means, am I good? Was the data altered? That's my correction material. Then I have my stop frame, which says, here's the end of this frame. That's all it is.
Kind of like when it goes, so a couple of these packets and then together the computer knows that this is a file being completed.
Well, you're going to have packets that are inside of the data. Frame is just a collection of data. All right? How do we address it? Well, if you have a multi-access frame, it can have many possible destinations, right? Because you're on the multi-access line. Anywhere in this switch, off this switch into this room could get access to it. Whereas the point-to-point, there's only one possible destination. It's going from and it's going to. Right? Y'all with me? So, where's my stop frame going to be? You have your frame check sequence, and then you have your stop frame. Why is it important?
Because it's received all the data that's coming.
And who it came to. Any questions on the data link layer?
That's pretty sure.
Now let's talk about the fun layer, the physical layer, right? What is the physical layer? Well, that's all your medium. That's coming from your NIC to the other NIC on the other side. That's the physical medium. It can be coax, it can be fiber, it can be copper, any type of thing. Here's how, in a nutshell, the physical layer gets the data. You have all your data up here. It gets segmented at the transport layer. We put it into the IP packet, right, in layer 3. We put it into a frame. Physical layer converts it to bits. Bits are what we know as ones and zeros, right? Binary. It sends it over to the next area where it needs to go. It takes it, breaks off the bits, gets the frame data, sends it up to data link. The data link then handles it, strips off the encapsulation, sends it up to the network to verify that this is the right computer, and then on up to the application. That's how it works. Make sense? There are different ways in which you can get signaling. We can have digital, which are ones and zeros, up and down. They kind of look like a skyscraper or city. Your ones and zeros can be converted into light, where you can see this one came very close to this one. That would be a 1 0 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 probably. All right. Or you can have the digital signal where it goes just up and down, up and down. If it's up, it's a 1. If it's down, it's off. You have your amplitude modulation where as long as it's still within a small frequency, it's off. And then if it jumps, then it's on. Your FM signals, they're bigger. If it's off, there's more time between. And this is what we call frequency modulation. And then you have goes up and down, up and down, up and down quicker. So you have a stronger signal. That means there's a 1. Then you have phase modulation, which means you can have in or out phase. If it changes phase, then it's changed from a 0 to a 1. All right? Depending on the phase, it depends on what style you're going to get.
Which one would be faster?
Light. Fiber. A common comparison, remember Datalink had the implemented hardware of the NIC down to the physical layer. Your TCP/IP standards are all set by the IETF. OSI is set by a lot of people, right? ANSI, ISO, IEEE, ITU, EIA, and the FCC. Like I said, depending on the medium, will depend on what type of encoding and signaling you'll see. Here's the varying amplitude, varying frequency. Notice that between here and here, it got shorter, right? Longer means it's off, shorter means it's on. Varying phase, it could go in phase, out of phase. And then you have a clock rate, which gives you that specific time for it to look at the specifications. Data throughput is the actual network performance. Goodput is the measure of transfer of usable data over the protocol overhead traffic after it's been removed. Meaning, goodput is, did I get what I needed to get? I love it when they come up with new terms, right? I'm not going to talk about the mediums. What are some interferences that we could have with copper?
Cell phone signals.
Electricity, radio waves, cell phones, electric motors from drills, any construction equipment, fluorescent lighting. That's a big one.
Why does fluorescent lighting affect it?
Because it's in pulses. These fluorescent tubes just send down the pulse between the two ends, and that's what lights everything up. And so if you're actually going to run cable in here, you would want to run it this way, perpendicular, not parallel. You run it parallel, you're going to have a lot of EMI interference. Remember, you want to keep it as small of a cross section as possible when you're running cable. Because unshielded twisted pair doesn't have any shielding whatsoever. It's just the twist that protect it. Now, what's the difference between Cat 5 and Cat 5e? No. It's the number of twists per foot.
Oh,
The greater twist per foot, the more throughput you can get with less interference. Or so the thought is. Essentially, you just have an outer jacket that covers the 4 pair. And then each of you have a white, and then the color, and then just a solid color. So you have like white, orange, orange, and white, green, blue, white, blue, green, white, brown, brown. That's the 568B. It's to where you have coaxial cable. You're going to have an outer jacket. You'll have a braided shielded. You'll have the conductor or plastic insulation around the copper conductor. Y'all seen the 4 layers on your TV, right? And that shielding will tear you apart. Shielded twisted pair. You have the foil shield that goes around each of the 2 sets of twisted pairs, and then they have a braided shield, and then they have the jacket. So that's STP cable. Now we have different types. You have an N-type cable, an F-type cable. F-type cable is a female cable. That means you're going to have female ends on both sides. You got to put things into it. And N is a male. And then you have the old B and C connector, British Naval connector, where you just push it in, turn it. Copper media safety. You want to make sure that your electric and your power, or your electric power and your networking do not cross. And they must comply with safety codes. Cables must be correctly connected in order for it to even work. And you want to make sure that all your equipment is grounded correctly, and then installations must be inspected occasionally for any problems. All right. Fiber. There are 2 types. You have multi-mode and single mode. Multi-mode gives you a bigger chance. In right here, what we have is the 50 micron to 62.5 micron. That's how thick it is. The fiber optic part. It's bigger, so you can send more signal down it. And then you have single mode, which is 8 to 10 microns. That's about half the size of a piece of your hair in thickness. And I have spliced around 5,000 of these individually. Those are fun to splice. And they're also fun when they get stuck in your arm, because they don't come out with you pulling out. You just better break it off and let it come out on its own. You can go up to 62 miles or 62.4. Well, you can go up to 14 miles without a signal having to be regenerated. On a single mode, you can go to 62 miles. This is 18 cents a foot. So imagine if you just need to run 1 fiber optic cable. Make sure you run a bunch of them at the same time, because it'll save you on the digging cost. Wireless, you're going to have these type of radio frequencies. You're going to have all sorts of interference. What's the problem with wireless is data security, right? How do you secure wireless? You can't. It's wide open. You can have appliances on there that prohibit certain filtering agents, but that's about it. We have copper media connectors. You have a 110 punch down, and you also have a 66. 66 is your regular telecom phone lines. 110 is what you use for networking infrastructure. And your punch down blocks on your patch panels are 110s. You have UTP plugs, or a UTP socket, which is also known as a keystone. And that's your physical media. Is there any questions?